Joining us now is Congressman Mac Thornberry, Republican of Texas. He is the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Why do you think the president did the deal with the Democrats yesterday?
Maybe out of frustration. I don't know what his motivations were. And frankly, I don't care who makes a deal with whom. What I care about are the results, what the consequences are. And unfortunately, this does not help fix our military situation. We have increasing number of accidents. We have our people are increasingly under stress and strain. We have a world that's growing more dangerous, such as North Korea. And so this will just have the stopgap funding measure that makes none of those problems better.
Well, why do you think the president thought that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer had the better deal?
I don't know what the president thought. Clearly, to get things done, you have to get them past the Senate, often by 60 votes. And so that is a political reality, no question. But again, what matters, I think, are the consequences. What the country needs, what the military needs, what the world needs is some stability. So a 3-month debt limit does not provide stability for the financial markets, and it certainly does not provide the funding stability that the military needs to solve these readiness issues, to increase munitions, to beef up our missile defense as threats grow worse and worse.
Well, one of the ways it was explained, one of the rationales was that if the president could clear the deck for September and postpone, well, first of all, get Harvey relief funding, kick the can down the road for the debt ceiling, that then he could focus on tax reform. What do you think of that plan? Yeah,
well, of course it's important. We've got to put money in FEMA immediately. Yesterday, the House passed a bill to do that. That is absolutely true. But I don't like the kicking the can down the road for any purpose if kicking the can down the road means greater danger, more maintenance problems for our military. I'm for tax reform, but in the meantime, men and women who serve our nation are risking their lives to help keep us safe and to hold back these adversaries. And just look at what's happened in the past few weeks with, of course, the 2 Navy accidents, but we've also had helicopters go down. We've had airplanes go down. Accident rates are going up. And keeping everything the way it is, kicking the can down the road does not solve those problems.
Well, and I know you have a hearing on all of that later this afternoon, and I do want to get to that, but just help me understand how it's different. So he went with Pelosi and Schumer for a 3-month deal instead of a 6-month deal or an 18-month deal that the Republicans were suggesting. So how could your problems have been solved in 6 months that can't be solved in 3 months? I mean, why do you see this current deal as so much worse?
Well, I think we're talking about 2 different things. You're focused a lot on the debt limit, which is important, and I think we should increase the debt limit for 18 months to provide stability. What I'm really focused on is the military budget and how we can provide that certainty so that companies can make the investments, increase their production, military leaders can plan so more than 3 months so that they can begin to solve these problems. You're absolutely right. We will not solve our readiness problems. We can't fix our ships and planes and so forth in 3 months or 6 months, but we can get on a good trajectory. In July, the House passed a defense bill by the largest bipartisan majority in the last 8 years that does exactly that. Unfortunately, what this 3-month stopgap measure will do will cut the funding by more than $50 billion that was designed to fix those problems. So you can't just say, I'll put it this way, we are doing more of the same that got us into trouble. And that's what my primary objection is.
So in that case, do you agree with Speaker Ryan's assessment that the plan that the Democrats were pitching is, quote, ridiculous and disgraceful? He said that before the president closed the deal, but would you use those adjectives?
Oh, I'd probably use those adjectives and more, but I wouldn't put Democrats on it, because the truth is there is bipartisan responsibility for the cuts in the defense budget and for not giving the military planners the stability and certainty that they need to do the job we expect them to do. And so we cut their budget, but we say, you still got to defend us from North Korea. You still got to protect us from terrorism. You still have to patrol the South China Sea and the Russian, and watch the Russian exercises, et cetera. We expect no less of them, and yet funding has been going down. Airplanes and ships have been aging. They have not been getting the training they need, and that's just wrong.
So, Congressman, let's talk about those catastrophic crashes that we saw with the USS John McCain and the Fitzgerald. What do you think went wrong?
I don't know the specifics. What I do know is that 2 years ago, the General Accountability Office warned that we were asking too much of our Pacific fleet. Just as I was describing, the threats are not going down. These ships are staying at sea longer. The crews are not getting the training they need. So they are being stretched thinner and thinner. And GAO warned that we were on a bad path. So we'll look at the specific cause of each of these accidents. But I think some of the responsibility comes back to this dysfunctional budget process that both parties share responsibility for.
So you have this hearing this afternoon. What can Congress do about this?
Well, number one, we can ask the questions about what we know about the accidents. We can also understand the shape of the Navy today, and I think you will hear testimony this afternoon that shows it's worse now than it was 2 years ago. Fewer of our ships are certified as ready for action than there were 2 years ago, so the problem's getting worse. What Congress can do about it, working with the President, is to pass an adequate military budget on time. And that's one reason I'm just disheartened by what we were talking about earlier. We have an opportunity to begin to fix these problems. Unfortunately, they're just getting worse, and all we're doing is delaying in the same old thing.
Congressman Thornberry, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your viewpoint with us.
You're welcome.
Chris.